Hi, everyone. I'm Mike Veasey, and this is Mike's Alternate Reality Show. This is a talk show I put together to talk to creative people that are out there pursuing their passions. I have two great guests tonight. Later on, we'll meet musician Mary Edwards. But first up, we're going to see a good friend of mine, a comedian named Joan. Jane?
Well,
thank you for coming to the show.
oh, thanks for having me. It is great to be here, Mike. And, you know, doing comedy with you, it's just been so much fun.
We had a great 2023.
We had a fabulous 2023. I did reach my comedy goal.
Oh, you did?
So my comedy goal for 2023 was to get paid for my comedy. And I got paid for the amount of performances that I set my goal at. And so now I'm increasing that goal for 2024.
Absolutely. And you played some great shows, too.
I did. We did a few great ones together at Gotham Comedy Club. And I did do the Comedy Mob Festival at the Stand-Up New York.
And you placed, didn't you? You made the finals, the semifinals?
I did. And for the Clean Comedy Challenge, I placed in the finals.
Wow. So you placed in the finals in two separate contests.
It was actually the Clean Comedy Challenge that I placed in the finals.
Terrific.
And yes.
Yeah, I know.
And you're right.
I know, I'm right. I was there.
And at the
Stand-Up New
Comedy
York.
Mob Festival, yes.
So how did you get started in stand-up? And we've been friends for a while, but I never really knew, like, what got you there. Like me, I grew up listening to comedy, loving comedy, thinking I could do it. My big influences were Steve Martin, Bob Newhart, Richard Pryor. Those are as a kid. You know, my mother had these Bob Newhart and Woody Allen records that I listened to as a child, and then as a teenager, Steve Martin and Richard Pryor were the big ones. And I finally gave it a shot when I was 22, I think, 23.
I had a much different path. When I was young, I never thought about anything in the entertainment industry. I became a pharmacist.
Oh, wow.
And then I got married. I had 3 children. And after my second divorce, a friend of mine invited us over to a barbecue, and there was a gentleman there and talking about the things that we would like to do. And he said he would like to take an improv class and a stand-up class. And I went home that night, and I thought that was very interesting. And I started looking up stand-up classes and improv classes. And I took one of each. They had free classes.
Wow.
So I took one of each. It was just one class.
Yeah, sample class.
And then I decided that, I'm thinking, how could I monetize this? And I'm thinking, I didn't feel the improv could monetize as much as stand-up could. And I also had another dream. And that dream was to create a sitcom.
Oh, your own sitcom.
My own sitcom.
Okay.
So I also felt that as a stand-up comedian, I would have more opportunities to do that.
That's usually the path, yeah. They'll take a stand-up and give them a sitcom. Very rarely they'll take an improv person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's happened, but not as frequently as with stand-up. So I took a few classes. I took a writing class with Joe DeVito. And shout out to you, Joe, fabulous writing coach
Yeah, it's good.
and
I've taken
teacher.
one of his workshops. A lot of good techniques.
And I took a few classes. I took a class with Rick Chrome over at the Comedy Cellar. And I'm now finally taking an acting class because that led me to do some extra work. So I appeared on The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel and the Sex and the City reboot and Just Like That. And now I'm actually pursuing to, move that along.
Excellent. All right, you're branching out.
Branching out.
Well, it took 2 divorces, but after 2 divorces, I'm sure you had enough material to...
A lot of material with the 2
comedy.
divorces, yes. The gambling husband, the narcissist husband, a lot of material there.
Excellent. Where are you playing now?
So I just booked for January 15th, I'm going to be at Rodney's, which is the new Dangerfields. So they're reinvigorating
Wait a
that
second,
club.
the same club?
Not sure exactly where it is,
Okay.
but it might be.
Yeah.
It might be. I don't know if the space was being used.
No, I just walked past the old Dangerfields a few months ago, and it was depressingly empty.
So then maybe it's not the same place.
Okay, well, maybe it is. You know,
Right.
Maybe they are opening it, but that's great.
And then I have another show later in January at Mr. C's Lounge in Bayonne. So those are the two things I have set for January right now.
Well, good. So since we're talking about your comedy, why don't we take a look at your stand-up? Here is Joan performing at the Gotham Comedy Club.
Yes, it was easier for me to give up my husband than it would be Costco. I love Costco. I buy my food at Costco, buy my clothes at Costco. I bought these pants at Costco, bought these boots at Costco. I actually got my divorce lawyer through Costco. I'm hoping to get my next husband through Costco because they have such a great return policy. Yeah. My husband was a narcissist, and I didn't know much about narcissism. I must have been focused on my own stuff.
All right, that was Joan, my guest, the very funny comedian. I love your act, Jane. I'm always laughing. And all of my friends that come to see us perform together always come up to me and tell me how great you were.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Mike. I mean, we've had a wonderful friendship and collaboration.
Yeah.
And
very much.
I mean, that also started from us taking a class together.
Yeah, with
So
the great
that
Buddy Fitzpatrick.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. And so it has helped us, and Darren keeps us grounded. And
Fabulous Darren Joseph.
Darren
yeah.
Joseph, and to keep meeting, and so that we can help each other and work on building better sets.
That's
so that
it.
we can make people laugh.
Right. Well, let's shift gears.
Okay.
Because you're not only a comedian, you're an author. Tell me about this book, this beautiful book you have here.
I am. So my book is Mysteries of the Holy Rosary, and I created this book because I was teaching religious education, and I wanted a tool that I could use to teach the children how to pray the rosary. And I worked with my partner, Heather Lean, who was actually raised Jewish but has found Jesus Christ as her Savior.
Oh, she's converted to Catholicism.
She hasn't converted to Catholicism, but she believes Jesus is our Savior.
Interesting.
And so she is on her path. She is an attorney also, and she has written, as of now, I think it's 10 children's books.
Wow. So she's a lawyer and a very prolific author.
A lawyer and a prolific children's author.
Nice.
And we work together with Yaris Handoko, who is the illustrator, who is
Okay.
a young Catholic man from Indonesia.
Oh, wow. That's
And
amazing. You found an artist in Indonesia?
in Indonesia, and it is just, his work is phenomenal. It's something I'm very proud of.
Well, it's a beautiful book. I have read through it, and it's funny, I grew up Catholic, and I never learned to pray the rosary. So it's actually something I'm sure a lot of people can relate to.
Yes, it's been a wonderful journey. I've visited EWTN, the Eternal Word Television Network, to promote it, and it's just been so, it's such a great feeling when children tell me how much they love the book.
Nice.
And when the parents say, I didn't even know about these mysteries, and they're learning. So it's a very rewarding endeavor that I've done.
Yeah, it seems very rewarding, and I know you're passionate about it.
Yes.
What was it like visiting the Catholic TV network?
Well, that was just so much fun, because watching that network for so many years, to be there and to see the big satellites and to see the studio, and you know, it's amazing at what they can do and how many outlets they have. They broadcast all over the world.
Nice.
And it's the message of Jesus, and so I love it.
Excellent. Well, Jen, I wish you the best with your book,
Thank you, Mike.
your sitcom, and of course your comedy, which I'm sure will be on many shows together this year.
I hope so.
All right, that was Jane Joan. I'll be back with musician Mary Edwards after this. And I had a good day today. I got up early and I actually got to the gym. You see, at my age, you got to work out. You don't get a body like this by just switching to Bud Light. Well, come to think of it, I'm not sure what kind of body you get by switching to Bud Light. Got up early, got to the gym, and oh, here's what happened to me. It's Sunday, so I was trying really hard to do my weekly pull-up. I looked down, I realized I'm wearing a Superman t-shirt. I just gave up and dropped to the floor, because think about it. I was a meme waiting to happen. So I go to the gym, but I'm thinking about quitting. Because what happens is I go, and I try the weights, and I try the machines, but I don't know what I'm doing. I don't see any results. I get frustrated, so I just jump on a treadmill and I run for an hour. It doesn't make any sense to pay $60 a month to run on a treadmill, when the world is full of free treadmills. They're called sidewalks. Now, I'm thinking about quitting, and I'll tell you the real reason. The real reason is the bullies. I'm getting bullied at the gym. Yeah, it's not the muscle heads in the weight room. It's the ladies in Zumba class. So on Saturdays, I take boxing. There's a boxing boot camp at 9. I love that class. You get to wear the gloves, you get to hit the bag, you do everything a real boxer does, and nobody punches you in the face. It's awesome. But today I decided to stay for the 10 o'clock Zumba class. So the boxers left, and the Zumba ladies came in. And they came in with an intensity. I think they might be trying for a black belt in Zumba. So I had a spot, and the lady started saying, okay, you know, the music started. I was doing pretty good. She said, move forward, I moved forward. She said, go back, I went back. She said, spin around, I spun around, which I can do with a cordless link. But as soon as I inched off my spot, boom, some old lady took it. And she wasn't giving it back. So I tried to go this way, or I tried to go this way. There were wrinkled elbows everywhere. So I found myself doing Zumba in like a little glass box, like the mime team. So I'm not going back. I did quit the last gym I was in, back before the pandemic. I was working in Manhattan. A coworker convinced me to join a spin studio. It's one of those places, you pay $100 a month, you can take all the classes you want on exercise bikes. But to join the gym, I had to buy these special shoes that connected to the pedals. $150. I finally quit when I realized I paid $150 for shoes I can't walk in to ride a bike that doesn't go anywhere. Anyway, looks like summer's finally over, huh? It's kind of cool today. Nice day, but a little cool. Fall is in the air. Which makes me sad. I really enjoyed summer this year. I did not enjoy my summer last year because I started it off with a really bad bicycle accident. Remember when the gas prices went up to $5 a gallon last year? Well, I decided I'd save some money and get in shape by riding my bike everywhere. It lasted about a week. I saved $15 on gas. I'll be paying for these teeth for the next 5 years. I was coming home from a show one night, I hit a curb, I went right over the handlebars, I went up in the emergency room, and it was bad. I broke my wrist, I lost some teeth, my face was all bloody. I was miserable. But I can look back at it now as a learning experience. First thing I learned, what a New York City sidewalk tastes like. Turns out those black gobs of gum retain their flavor very nicely. Next thing I learned, everybody in the emergency room is dressed like a doctor, no matter what their job is. Like, I am miserable. Like I said, blood was gushing out of my face, I was in deadly pain, my hand was hanging off my arm by a wrist, by a thread. Finally, some woman comes up to me. She's wearing gray scrubs. She's pushing a computer on wheels. She's got a laser scanner. I'm looking, look at this. I'm gonna get me some Star Trek medical treatment here. The only thing she scanned was my insurance card. And giving your insurance card to the emergency room is like giving your credit card to a stripper. You don't know what charge is going to wind up on you. About a half hour after that, a guy walks by, he's wearing red scrubs. Looks like he's going to go do an operation. I jumped up and said, hey, am I going to need plastic surgery? And he looked at my face, and he said, I wouldn't worry about it. I don't think you were that good looking to begin with. Then he grabbed his mop, and he went back to work. But finally, I found the right person in the right color scrubs, and they did patch me up really good. They fixed my wrist, they cleaned up my face. They sent me home with 2 prescriptions. One for painkillers, and one for training wheels. Sad thing is, I needed them both. So I went down to Mexico last year with my uncle. Took a weekend trip to Mexico. And I wanted to learn the language. So I learned a little Spanish. I could talk to the people that work there in their native language, you know? So I used Google Translate, and I learned uno cerveza por favor, which means grab a beer, please. Then I learned dos cervezas por favor. Then I learned tres cervezas por favor. It wasn't all-inclusive. Then I learned donde está el baño? And then when I got home, I went to check my email, and all the little advertisements were in Spanish. My cell phone went and told Big Google I speak Spanish now. That little Geico gecko was trying to sell me insurance in 15 minutos or less. You can't trust these things. You can't trust. Our phones are spying on us. And we got to start fighting back against all these computers that are controlling our lives, you know? I mean, computers control our banking. Computers control our shopping. Computers control our entertainment. If you don't start fighting back, they're going to take over everything. But how do you fight back? I came up with a plan. We got to turn the computers against each other. Yeah, I started this morning. I woke up and I told Siri that Alexa called her fat. Hi, everyone. We're back with Mike's alternate reality show, and my guest is an old friend of mine. By that, I mean a childhood friend. We grew up on the same block right here in Staten Island, but she has been traveling the world as a renowned musician. Please meet Mary Edwards. Mary.
Thank you, Mike. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Wow, you've certainly been up to some stuff.
Yeah, I've been pretty busy with a lot of sound art, these days. So I bill myself really as a composer as well as a sound artist. And the musician part, of course, is embedded in all of that because I'm sort of all things sound at this rate. Started off doing singer-songwriter work. That's one facet of my career. And then I got involved about 20 years ago. I started bringing up this question about sound in relationship to space, meaning like sound in architecture, sound in nature. And I didn't know that there was this whole entire field called sonic ecology, and I eventually got into it.
Sonic ecology?
Sonic ecology.
I've never heard of that.
Yes, so it's basically as a musician or sound artist, or it's not always music related because not all sonic ecologists are musicians, but many of us are. And it's really examining the health of the planet by way of our practice, and also keeping up these dialogues about how we're informed by sound in space. So it's pretty cool. And over the past, I would say 3 years or so, I started really picking up speed by getting into residencies and being invited into residencies, which then sort of, catapult me to the next thing. And so hence all this traveling that I've been doing lately. And what's been really cool is one of the residencies that I did about 2 years ago, now it'll be 2 years, is called the Arctic Circle Residency. And that is when we get to sail around on a research vessel around this island called Svalbard, which is a Norwegian territory.
The Arctic Circle,
yes,
where Santa Claus lives.
Yes, exactly.
Wow.
So where I was sailing on this very small ship is located between northernmost mainland Norway and the North Pole.
Wow.
So we were actually
Wow.
about just a few hundred miles away from the North Pole. And the North Pole is not a specific piece of land, nor is the Arctic Circle. Oftentimes when I bring this up to people and they say, oh, so you went to Antarctica? And it's like, no, I went to the Arctic.
Opposite, yeah.
Right, which encompasses, it's the 78th parallel on the globe. So it encompasses anything that is in that vicinity. So you've got the American Arctic, you've got the Norwegian Arctic, you've got the Russian Arctic, anything that is on that parallel. So I happened to go to the Norwegian Arctic, and I flew up to Tromsø, which is a very northern city in Norway, and then you take another plane, and you can only get to Svalbard from Norway. It's so protected.
Wow.
It's not that you're not allowed to go there, but it's not a place that you can just fly to from anywhere because it's quite delicate, and it is sort of this center point of conversation around climate change, in that some of the most magnificent glaciers are melting at a clip. Mm-hmm. And so one of the reasons why I wanted to do this work and do this project is that I wanted to document the sound. I don't know when I'll be going back, hopefully sooner than not, and then take more sound footage and compare the two. But in the meantime, what I did gather was enough footage to then create a cinematic soundscape in which I then sort of compare and contrast the sounds of the melting Arctic with some other existing footage. And then I also have composed around it using something called a waterphone, which is a waterphone, which is a cinematic instrument. It's been used a lot in horror films, like a lot of the films we grew up watching. Like they probably used it in Psycho, that screeching sound, like
oh yeah.
Or in anything where there's suspense in the soundtrack. It's also been used in films and nature documentaries that need to enhance the depiction of whale song, because you don't understand what Foley is, or Foley in...
Foley.
Foley, yes, not Foley.
Foley are the artists that add the sound effects to movies.
That's
so
right.
If you see a guy running down a hall, his footsteps and maybe he's knocking on the door.
Right, so you might hear...
is recorded by an artist in a studio.
Right,
okay.
and I did some Foley work in the past, so I'm incorporating both my compositional skills along with my Foley skills, and creating these enhanced soundscapes where I actually did record beluga whales up in the Arctic.
Oh.
Calving glaciers, like huge chunks of ice falling off of magnificent...
Did you get to see this ice falling?
I did.
Yikes.
I actually did. I mean, I have some really interesting stories about that. But to hear it and to witness it visually is just like nothing else that I've experienced in nature. And to record it and then bring it back and to tell someone, well, this is the sound of a calving glacier. If I don't tell someone what that is, they might be able to identify it, but to enhance it with instrumentation and sort of create a sonic intrigue around that makes it more cinematic. And that sort of stems back to when I was a kid and we used to go to the movies at like the Lane Theater and, all the great movie houses here on the island. You know, as a kid, I was so intrigued with the sound. I mean, the visuals, of course, were phenomenal, but to me, there was nothing like the sound, and I was really drawn into this storyline by way of the sonics and the music.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because as an amateur filmmaker, or a filmmaker, whatever you want to call it, I'm always stressing the audio has to be good for the audience to invest in it. Mm-hmm. You could shoot something on a VHS camcorder from 1980, but as long as the sound is good, the sound is solid, people will watch it.
Right. It draws you in no matter what. I mean, late at night, and I found this years later, because when I was a kid, sometimes I'd fall asleep in the movie theater. You know, my parents would be watching, like, you know, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, or The Way We Were, and with those dynamic soundtracks, you know, and I might pass out. How old was I? Like 3.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But I'd wake up to this like jarring sound and think, there's something about that, and you carry it with you after the cinematic experience. So that was one of the earliest influences on how I learned how to compose or why I was interested in composition. And so jump to later, also when you're watching movies late at night, like say a Western, I love Westerns.
Sure.
But I love the soundtrack of Westerns. There's nothing like it. Even if the plot line's a little boring, the music is what draws you in.
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
as a sound person, I always felt like, well, this is my job. This is the most important thing that I could do is try to captivate people's imagination so that you can create your own cinematic experience in your imagination just by listening.
Interesting. Well, we only have a few minutes left. Could I see this?
Yes.
This is the instrument you brought. This is the waterphone?
This is the waterphone. And it was actually invented by someone with the last name Waters. He has since passed on.
I thought okay, got it.
I know, and it wasn't, I think it was named for him, but the interesting thing about this is more of a show and tell than an actual demonstration, but to show that it can be played with mallets, it can also be played with the bow. So I've got both, violin bows, cello bows. I might explore the bass bow because it does sort of change the tenor of the sound, but it has this really interesting resonance, and even more so because you can pour water into.
I see. You can pour water.
You can pour water into it, just a little bit, just enough to sort of get into the chamber, and not fill it up completely. And what it does is it creates this crazy warped sound that sounds a lot like whale song.
Oh wow!
Mm-hmm. It also
and you would know.
Exactly. It
Having
also
recorded well.
Right. It also sounds like the underwater subterranean rivers that sort of intersect when you're listening with a hydrophone through headphones. So this is my primary instrument, and this is what the viewers will see on the short film.
Excellent.
In addition to other percussion, piano, various instruments, and this year I'm going to be breaking it open even further and bringing in an ensemble and conducting an ensemble to play the work out for a recording.
Well, so you're going to bring in a band, basically.
Yes, yes.
I mean, not to sound ignorant. I didn't mean to dismiss it. It just you meant a chamber ensemble.
Yeah, like a small ensemble,
Okay.
improvisational chamber, orchestral.
Wow.
Even some jazz influences thrown in for good measure.
Well, could you? We've got 30 seconds left. Could you just play us out?
Sure. Now, it doesn't have any water in it, so it may not be as delicious as I'd like.
Because I'm thinking, Mary, let's play us out here.
See.
And could you stay and come back on my next show and show the short film?
Yeah, sure. I certainly can.
All right.
You can't hear very much without the water, but
Okay.
just to give you an idea, I'll give you a little percussive demo.
That's an interesting instrument.
Yeah.
So where would this be played? It could be played in the percussion section or in the string section?
Either one, because it's both rhythmic and melodic.
Wow.
It has the sort of the qualities of both.
Fascinating. So, well, that's all we have time for on this episode of Mike's Alternate Reality Show. Please come back next time to see Mary's short film, and watch out for Joan and her book. And I'll see you next time. Thank you. Good night.